Watching Tasty Live. This is Last Call here for the final 30 minutes of the trading day. A little bit of a special edition for Last Call here in the wake of those Nvidia earnings. First 15 minutes or so here, we're with Julius de Kempenaer. He's from StockCharts. He's also the proprietor, the founder of Relative Rotation Graphs. It's kind of the perfect day to have someone like this on because you've heard me on network all day long talking about the relative strength in the NASDAQ, the equal weight versus the market cap weight. Same thing for the S&P 500. This is a guy who I've learned charting from. I remember reading his name, and as you can tell, folks, we've had a lot of guests on who I admire here in recent weeks as we try to find good content for you folks to learn from. Julius de Kempenaer, StockCharts, RRG. Welcome to Tasty Live.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
So let's just go through this RRG first, because I think rotation and breadth is a concept that unless you're someone who really goes into the weeds on, charting, it may not be something that's common to you, or at least nature to you. So why don't you walk us through this process that you've really pioneered over the years, which chartists and technicians around the world, I think, use almost daily at this point?
Yeah, so I started out as an analyst on the trading floor on the sell side, and that's a cutthroat business. You really have to stand out to basically get in front of those fund managers, and you need to do something different. My job was to track, at that time, 18 stock sectors in Europe for institutional PMs. And their game is relative performance. They, even if they are like 100% sure that the market's going down, there is no way they could sell their entire portfolio to benefit from that. So the only thing that they were interested in was what is going to outperform my benchmark. That was their spiel. And then in the technical analysis toolkit, there's really only one indicator, one tool that helps you with that decision, and that's relative strength. So not to be messed up with the RSI that we all know, this is comparative relative strength, looking at one security versus another, or one sector versus a benchmark. And I was doing a lot of work on that, and then I got a lot of questions on what are your best 5 sectors, what are your best 5 stocks, etc. And because of the nature of relative strength analysis, that's very hard to answer right away, because these numbers that come out of it are not really comparable. And so one of my first things, and can people see my slides now? I'm not sure.
Yes, we can.
The case. Okay, you can. All right. Okay, so cool. So RRG, what is an RRG? What you're looking at right now is an RRG on a Bloomberg terminal screen. That's where it first started in 2011. Now, what are we looking at here? If we look at a relative rotation graph, I think it's important to basically get the definition down. And that graph shows you trends in relative strength, or trends in performance of multiple securities in a universe against a common benchmark. More importantly, also against each other. And that's quite unique, because normal relative strength charts, you cannot really compare them across a universe. With an RRG, you can actually do that. So they do not show relative performance as such. That's a misconception. A lot of people say it's like it shows you relative performance. It shows you trends in relative performance. There's a very distinct difference. If you look at a regular chart, so this is a chart of the MSCI consumer staples in Europe versus the MSCI Europe. But what I want to show you is that the middle graph here, that's relative strength. I call that raw relative strength, which is essentially nothing else than the price of, in this case, the sector divided by the price of the benchmark. And
Sure.
what you will see is that even though the price is going sideways, relative strength is going down. What that tells you is that during this period, there were other sectors in that universe that were going up, that were doing a lot better than consumer staples. You also see that when the price goes up, that relative strength line goes flat. Now that means that there are still other sectors that are doing better. And then here, and it's 22, so at the end of 21, start of 22, you can see that relative strength is starting to improve while the price is moving sideways. And that means that the other sectors in this universe, or many of the other sectors, were going down, and they were going down faster than, in this case, the consumer staples sector. That's the basic concept of relative strength in a nutshell. Now, the problem with raw relative strength is that that numeric value that you see here is uncomparable. You can do this for every sector, and you will get very different values. They're completely dependent on the price level of the sector that you're looking at.
I was about to ask,
So
how do you normalize this then for a sector by sector basis?
that's what's happening with the RRG lines, and that's where the RRG algorithm comes in, and that's proprietary because what I ran into at that time when I developed this, or what I mean, it wasn't developed on a Sunday afternoon in the kitchen, but it's like it evaluated over time, working with investors, etc. And what a lot of people were doing, they have a fixed look back period. I mean, I think the Barron's has this table with relative performance, and they have like 12-month relative performance. And what that does is it just like takes today and it looks back 12 months, and then it says like, oh, we're now higher than 12 months, or relative performance is up to. So basically, look over a 12-month look back period.
Mm-hmm.
While during that period, it's very well possible that that relative strength went straight down for 6 months, and then the second 6 months it went straight up, and then you just came above it. It says, oh, it's now it turned positive. I'm thinking I want to catch that bottom. I want to catch it when it makes that move after 6 months and starts to turn up. So that's when I started to play around with trend following algorithms to basically figure it out and also make it available across all the elements in the universe. And that became the RS ratio. That's the red line that you see on the chart. That was the first of the two indicators that I use as a building block for RRG. And I use that in my research basically to answer that question, what are your best 5 sectors? So the RS ratio allowed me to answer that question. And I remember very well, somewhere in 2000, the NASDAQ was touching about 5,000. It was the dot-com bubble and, you know, shooting for the stars. And then all of a sudden, that NASDAQ started to turn around and everything started to come down. And obviously, there is a trend following element to the RRG lines, to that RS ratio. And, you know, that was lagging and prices were coming down. And I got an email from an Italian hedge fund manager writing to me like, hey, Julius, this time your system didn't work too well.
A little late.
It's sorry, no, 2000, dot-com bubble in 2000. So I was like, you know what? He's right. So I was I need some sort of an early warning system to figure out if I can get an idea about what could help me to answer that question. And we all know that in the technical analysis toolkit, there is rate of change, momentum. And that's a leading indicator. You know, before a trend changes, momentum will first fade and then roll over and start to move down. So I started to play around with rate of change and ran into the same problem. Your numbers are not comparable across that universe. So I ran them through that to a similar algorithm as the RS ratio, ended up with 2 lines, RS ratio and RS momentum. And I plotted them on a chart like what you're looking at right now. And then I had a problem that this gives you an idea about that sector that you're looking at that point in time. And then you can flip to another chart and you get it and you can rank it. But it's very hard to build that situational awareness, to build that picture of what's going on in the entire universe. And this really happened like playing around at that time in Excel with a lot of Visual Basic code that I was probably the only person in the world that could read it. I had my 2 columns, RS ratio and RS momentum, and I selected them and I started playing around with various charts in Excel. And then I hit on a scatter plot. And all of a sudden I had a scatter plot with a bunch of dots. It's like, oh, what's that? That's interesting. And then you know, when you look at something and at first you don't really realize what it is and what you're looking at. So I started looking into it. It's like, oh, what is this? Oh, that's that. Oh, that's interesting. So that basically got it started, and that's how.
Julius, you know what I love about the story that you're telling us here? This is a story from the dot-com bubble, and you brought up how you bring this over. You know, Bloomberg chart is on 2011. This is a process. You didn't have the answer right away. There's a lot of trial and error and persistence and determination to stick with it, which is what retail traders need to have if they're going to stick around a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is you're absolutely right. This as I said, it didn't happen Sunday afternoon at the kitchen table. I mean, I think the lucky stroke was a little bit when I was on the dealing room playing around in Excel and seeing it, but also that kicked off the second part of the process. So if you want to talk in terms of processes, we had the RRG lines first, RS ratio, and then RS momentum, and then the second part of the process was, how are we going to put this together? And that's how that RRG visualization came to life, because then all of a sudden I could see the entire universe in one image. And that was a real aha moment, because that allowed me, You know, remember what I said? Sell side institutional business, cutthroat. You got to be very special to be in front of these PMs. All of a sudden, I had something that I could put in front of those PMs that nobody else had, and you know that gives you an in to these guys, and they're interested.
Certainly.
And they want to talk to you, and that's how it started running. And then I can talk about this forever, but we don't have all that time. But
well, then can we bring it forward? Can we bring it forward to today? Because obviously there's been an interesting amount of rotation here in the market. I couldn't help but notice earlier today we did have the equal weighted Nasdaq leading the market cap weighted Nasdaq. If you look at a heat chart today, it looks like a big splash of red everywhere. The S&P is telling a different story. So, I mean, is this the start of the next, what's the rotation telling us about this market today?
Yeah, let me quickly share a live screen, and then we can talk about what's happening in the market right now. I trust everybody to be able to actually. Can you see the ROG now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this is Dow Jones stocks. That's not what I wanted to show you. So here are the sectors. So a real quick look at what's happening in sectors right now. Healthcare and financials. They're booming. They're moving into that leading quadrant. By the way, this is a weekly ROG, so weekly data. It doesn't move all that fast. And the big move is for technology. If you go back a few weeks, as a matter of fact, quite a few weeks, you can see that XLK was the only sector on the right-hand side of that graph for literally like 2 months, which was very special. It's now rotating out of leading through weakening. That means that the relative trend for tech is still up, but is going through some sort of a setback. What you see improving right now is healthcare and financials. That's very interesting. And where I think you should stay away right now is utilities and real estate. Those sectors have rolled over. They're pushing into the lagging quadrant.
Well, that's a good heads up for tomorrow, because that's the rate sensitive stuff, and we have Jackson Hole coming up. So
right,
we can arrive to the same conclusion from different viewpoints.
Yeah. So you were saying SPY versus equal weight, right?
Yeah, the SPY versus equal weight, Nasdaq versus equal weight, even tech. You mentioned broadly been weakening here, but today's a pretty good day for semis, all things considered.
Yeah, so let me take these off here. So this is RSP. If we do this, we see only one, but what you see here is that RSP, so equal weight, is now starting to pick up and starting to outperform SPY, which is, I think, the rotation that we've seen going on. It was Max 7, it was SPY cap weighted heavyweights that were stealing the show. And over the last couple of weeks, you see that rotation going on where money's been moving out of the Max 7 into the broader market. And that's exactly what you see on this ROG, where RSP has actually been picking up and now actually rotating into that leading quadrant where it is in a relative uptrend versus SPY. We could add NDX here. So that's the NASDAQ 100.
Sure. So, Julius, can I give you kind of a quick question here to go out the door?
Sure.
When we have a market that, I don't think this is a market that's grinding higher with weak breath, right? RSP is not performing SPY in a weak breath kind of market. So what's the breath signal or the rotation signal that you look to first, even if it's your indicator, to judge whether or not an S&P 500 rally is actually healthy and worth engaging with, and not just being driven by a handful of names like your Mag 7?
Yeah, so I mean, I love looking at RSP versus SPY. I think it's a very good measure for breadth on a broader scale. If I look at an RRG, I look at how many sectors are outperforming. When we had XLK outperforming, XLK is about 35% of the S&P 500. What you now see is that there are more sectors starting to outperform. So the base for the S&P with healthcare, with financials, to a degree, discretionary, maybe not all that, but you see that money is rotating out of tech, so out of that 35% bucket into smaller buckets, which you need more to compensate for that 35% in tech. So that's, to me, is the definition or the visualization of a market getting a broader base when SPY is still able to hold up, while money is moving out of its biggest sector. I mean, I don't think XLK should really start to move a downtrend. Then it'll be very hard for SPY to keep up the uptrend.
Oh, for
But
sure.
as long as tech remains where it is and doesn't do anything crazy, and you see the other sectors, starting to join the uptrend, I think that's a very good definition of breadth improving for the S&P 500.
He's been Julius de Kempenaer with us here on Last Call. He created those relative rotation graphs, which you can go check out on StockCharts, where he's a senior technical analyst. Julius, thank you so much for joining us here. It's great always to meet someone who I've learned a bunch from in the field along the years.
My pleasure, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Folks, we're going to take a brief 60-second break. Then we have a close to get into. Marvell earnings are coming up shortly thereafter. Oil's popping too. We'll be back. You're watching Tasty Live.